Yes, welcome back to our continuing coverage of the Scottish Classic Scramble Club's Round 6 event from Loch House Farm near Avonbridge in West Lothian. And these are the last few races from that event included in this final Part 3 video posting. Okay, so next up it's race 16, and this is the combined pre-1977s over and under 40s and 50s, and of course the pre-1989 125s. And it looks like most of the riders are good to go, but it looks like Andrew King's having a bit of bother there getting that Charlie Robertson Rickman Matisse matchless all fired up. I think Andrew also had a bit of a problem getting this bike started in the previous race that he was in, but as you can see, he's certainly not giving up, kicking away there frantically at the old British single cylinder matchless. Looks like he's going to try and give it a bit of a bump start, so Andrew looking for a bit of a push to try and get this old timer fired up. But it's quite a quick bike this when it's running, but I don't know what's happened here. He's maybe flooded the bike, but looks like he's got a good hand there to give it a shove. Hopefully, no, it doesn't. It certainly doesn't look like this matchless is going to fire into life for Andrew, so I'll give it one more try. But it doesn't look like Andrew's going to be able to line up with the rest of the riders. He's still trying his best there to get that bike to fire into life, but I think we're just going to go without Andrew, so we're almost ready to let the riders loose from the line. So as they leave the line, that's another good start there by Sam Sibbald on that big TT500 Yamaha 4-stroke machine. So as they head down the hill for the first time, it's currently number 24, Sam Sibbald on the big 4-stroke Yamaha, who leads Liston Bell at number 98. Mike McClurty there is in third position on the little 125, but of course, as I said, we have 2 or 3 different classes in this race, so these riders will be scored separately once they cross the line. But at the front of the pack now, as they come round to complete lap 1, it's number 98 Liston Bell on the Tribsa in the lead there. Number 24 Sam Sibbald second. Mike McClurty is in third position. Craig Smith just going through there on the 1981 RM 125. Steve Dent just making his way through there on the little CR125 Honda. Number 89 is Mike Bell. He's the father, of course, of the Bell brothers. Number 14 is Brian Hamilton. Just making his way across the line there was number 246. That's Ian Ward on his 1960s Villiers. But it looks like Liston Bell's managed to overtake Sam Sibbald, so it's Liston Bell, your race leader now. Sam Sibbald there, number 24 in second position. Mike McClurty, number 416, is currently in third. Craig Smith, number 25 on the RM Suzuki, just making his way through, but Craig of course will be in second position in the 125 class. Just crossing the line there, number 585, that's Steve Dent. Number 49 is Ian Marr, number 43 is Andy Malik. But here's the man at the front of the pack, number 98, Liston Bell. I hope this is one of the bikes that Liston's taking with him to Switzerland for the up-and-coming Classic Motocross the Nations event, because he's been very quick on this old Tribsa all afternoon, and he appears to be in top form and ready to go, judging by his performance here this afternoon. Number 24 again is Sam Sibbald. Just coming towards us, there's number 254, that's John Miller on his little CR125. Number 585 again is Steve Dent on the little 125 Honda. It looks like Ian Marr has had a bit of a off-track excursion on his lovely CZ bike, but it looks like Ian's still good to go and managing to remount. But certainly when you see the likes of Liston Bell riding this old 1960s Tripsaw, it gives you an idea of just how quick these bikes were way back in the day. So that's Liston Bell, your race leader. Second now is number 416, Mike McCarthy, who is of course leading the 125 part of this race. Number 161 is Joseph Dent. I think Joseph's also riding a little, I think it's a 1980 CR 125. Number 154 there is our lady rider Gillian Newry on that very quick Can-Am machine. So as our race leader is on his last and final lap and heads towards the checkered flag, it looks like it's going to be a win for number 98, Liston Bell. So let's just hope that Liston can do very well at the Classic Motocross Nations in Switzerland next weekend. So just coming across the line also is number 25 there. That's Craig Smith on the RM 125. And so that brings us on to race 17, the pre-1984 over and under 40s and over 50s. To leave the line, it looks like a good start there by number 75, David Loudon. Ian Stainton looks like he's been left at the line there, so hopefully Ian will manage to work his way through the pack. But as we begin at lap 1, it's number 75, David Loudon on the YZ490 Yamaha. I think that's Jason Miller there in second position. Jason, of course, riding that big RM 500 Suzuki that we had a look at in our paddock walkabout. But as a complete lap 1, it's David Loudon, number 75. Jason Miller is in second position. Just waiting on our third placed rider, which looks like it could be number 109. I think that's Colin Nelson on the Michael. But certainly David Loudon doing much better in these age-related races. Remember, David was up against some quite quick riders in the pre-1984 class in the first half of the race programme when he had some good racing with Paul Chiappa. But certainly David looking good in this race as he comes round to complete lap 2. As you can see, it's not a huge lap here at Loch House Farm, but certainly a big well done to everybody who made the commitment to race at this round 6 event here at Loch House Farm, because it was a bit touch and go if this event would even go ahead due to not having enough riders entered after the entry closing date. But riders eventually rallied round so that we had enough racers to run this particular meeting. But the club secretary need any interested parties to put those entries in early so that they can plan ahead and gauge if they have enough riders to actually run the event. So a little pointer there for future reference. Number 81 there again is Ian Stainton, who unfortunately was left at the start line, but it looks like Ian's managing to make his way through the pack. Ian, of course, is riding a borrowed bike from number 81, Chris Cannon. Ian normally rides a 4-stroke CCM machine, so it looks like he's enjoying his little venture on that RM 250. But here's the man that they're all trying to catch, number 75, David Loudon. Looks like Jason Miller is still in second position on the big RM500 monoshock Suzuki. But David, of course, riding the YZ490 Yamaha, one of two bikes that David's brought along to this meeting. He also has quite nice looking YZ465 as well, and tends to swap from bike to bike. Now number 109 there, that's Colin Nelson on his 250 German Michael. Now we certainly couldn't complete this final part 3 video without a quick mention to all of the volunteer marshals and other officials who helped out on the day, because as you're no doubt aware, these kind of race events could never go ahead if we didn't have the input and sacrifice from the volunteer marshals, because I know it's a bit of a pain always asking and sometimes even begging for marshals to help out, because nobody of course wants to be stuck trackside with a flag. But once again, thanks to all of those volunteer marshals who helped out here at Loch House Farm. So here's your race leader as he begins his last and final lap of this race, number 75, David Loudon, going very well on that YZ 490 Air Hammer two-stroke machine. Second place should be Jason Miller, number 18 on the RM500 Suzuki, but just a couple of turns to go now before David Loudon can notch up his second win of the afternoon. So another well done to David Loudon at number 75, and it's going to be Jason Miller who crosses the line in second position. So that brings us once again on to race 18, and these are the pre-1984 boys, and this is for the riders over 58 years of age. So these are basically the twin shock class of this Scottish Classic round 6. So we're just waiting on our official starter there, Stuart Riddle on the right hand side, waiting to let the bikes loose from the line. Looks like everybody's good to go. Our starter, Stuart Riddle, just making sure that the track's clear before he lets the riders go. So it looks like he's got a thumbs up from the travelling marshals. So as they leave the line, Chris Cannon's made a good start on the Suzuki, but it looks like it's the veteran racer Paul Chiappa, number 2, who takes the early lead. Chris Rogerson is in second position. But this man's certainly been in top form in this class throughout the day. Number 2, Paul Chiappa, I think he's already won 2 or 3 races here this afternoon, so he's certainly off to a good start on that rapid 490 Michael. Chris Rogerson is second. Looks like Chris Cannon is third. David Herdman just going through there, number 37 on that white Honda 250. So even on this very first lap, we seem to have a bit of a scrap going on for the first 3 places between this man here, number 2, Paul Chiappa, second place man Chris Rogerson, and number 81, Chris Cannon. So as we pick up our riders on lap 2, it's still number 2, Paul Chiappa, who leads this man here, number 5, 1-1, Chris Rogerson, also riding a 490 Michael. Chris Cannon there, number 81, who this time is riding his RM400 Suzuki. So Chris has been riding very well this afternoon. He's certainly been in the top 2 or 3 places in all of the classes. Number 29 there is Derek McCauley. Number 16 is Mike Foster. Number 27 is Mike Doby. Number 43 is Andy Mallock. Number number 37 there is David Herdman, and just coming towards us is number 10, that's Gary Bucket on his 250 Swedish Husqvarna. But it's still this man here from Dunfermline in Fife, who is your race leader, number 2, Paul Chiappa on the 490 Michael. Not, of course, a 100% original bike from 1981, but nevertheless a fast machine with some of those more modern, up-to-date trick parts bolted on. Number 511 is Chris Rogerson in second position. Number 81 is still Chris Cannon on the RM400 Suzuki. Although I certainly hope that you're continuing to enjoy my video content here on my YouTube channel, and if these are the kind of bikes that you like to look at, then hopefully you'll consider subscribing to my channel, because we do have some fantastic bikes lined up in the pipeline, so there's certainly plenty to see here on my channel to keep you interested through that long winter closed racing season. So as the riders cross the line to complete another lap, it's still number 2, Paul Chiappa, who leads. This man here, number 511, Chris Rogerson. Number 29 is Derek McCauley with that smoky CR125 Honda. But it certainly looks like Chris Rogerson is closing up on number 2, Paul Chiappa, so we may see a change of leadership at the front, but Paul Chiappa still going very well on that number 2 bike. Chris Rogerson there in second position, also on a 490 Michael. As you can see, Paul Chiappa's bike doesn't have the original rear swing arm on it. It has one of those more modern alloy parts bolted onto it. So as they complete another lap, it's still number 2, Paul Chiappa, who leads Chris Rogerson in second position. That was Chris Cannon just making his way through. So this is the start of the last and final lap. Number 29 again is Derek McCauley. So here's your race leader as he heads towards the checkered flag. Number 2, Paul Chiappa. Been riding superbly here this afternoon. The 65-year-old veteran racer has quite a colourful career riding motocross machines, and as you can see, in his more mature years, he's still very quick on these twin shock machines. Chris Rogerson is still currently in second, who's also ridden well this afternoon. Chris has always been in the top 3 in each of these classes, but as he comes towards the checkered flag, it's going to be yet another win for number 2, Paul Chiappa, and it's going to be Chris Rogerson who crosses the line in second position. Here's your third placed rider, and it's going to be number 81, Chris Cannon. So that quite conveniently brings us on to race 19, and this is the combined pre-1977s over and under 40s and 50s, and also the 125s as well. Another good lineup of riders for this race. Of course, all these different classes will be scored separately as they cross the finish line. So it looks like we're good to go. As riders leave the line, looks like Mike McClurty's made quite a good start on that little 125. Craig Smith currently there in second position. Liston Bell is flying again on that big 4-stroke Tribsa machine, the BSE frame with the Triumph twin engine in the chassis. So it looks like Mike McClurty is your early race leader. Number 98, Liston Bell, is in second position. Number 50, or number 25, just going down there, is Craig Smith on the 1981 125 RM Suzuki. So at the front of the pack, it's number 416, Mike McClurty, who leads the 125 part of this race. Liston Bell, of course, currently leading the pre-1977's part of this race, but he's been very quick all afternoon on that big four-stroke Tribsa. So as they cross the line, it's Mike McClurty from Liston Bell in second. Craig Smith just going through there, number 25. Number 6 is Andrew King on the Rickman Matchless. Steve Dent just going through with young Joseph close behind there. Number 154 is Gillian Urie just going through on that very quick Can-Am machine. But as I mentioned earlier, in these combined pre-77s and 125 class races, you certainly get a variety of machines racing against each other, because you can have these big 500 four-strokers racing against the much smaller 125 two-strokes, because in this age-related races, it is of course the age of the rider that determines what class you race in, and not the cc and year of manufacture of your bike. Number 161 there is Joseph Dent on the little 125 Honda. But we still have quite a good scrap going on here at the front between number 416 Mike McClurty's little CR125 water-cooled Honda and Liston Bell's 1950s or even 1960s Tribsa four-stroke machine. So as you can see, this old timer of a bike that Liston's riding is certainly managing to keep up with that modern little 125. 246 going through there. I don't know who that rider is, but that's certainly Ian Ward's old PSA, so it looks like Ian's loaned his old PSA to somebody to take part in this event. So here's the battle at the front. It's still Mike McClurty who leads Liston Bell number 98, and although Liston is in second position, as I said, these riders are both in two different classes, so they will be scored separately as they cross the line. But it looks like Mike McClurty maybe missed a gear there going into the turn, and Liston Bell has certainly pounced to take the lead of this race. So as I mentioned, Liston Bell absolutely flying on that old Tribsa machine. And here's another little scrap continuing between number 154 there at the front. That's Gillian Urie, one of the lady riders taking part in this round 6 event. So Gillian going very well there on her Can-Am 250 bike. She's just ahead of number 43 Andy Malik, who looks like this time Andy's riding his CZ bike and not his Montesa. But here's the battle at the front once again. It looks like Mike McClurty has taken back that pole position from number 98 Liston Bell, as these two riders head towards the checkered flag on their last and final lap. So it certainly looks like Mike McClurty has the advantage going into the last couple of turns. So it's going to be Mike McClurty who's going to take the win in the 125 part of this race. And it's going to be number 98 Liston Bell who's going to take the win in the pre-1977s. As we take another look at our lady rider, number 154, Gillian Urie on her Can-Am 250. Another one of those quite rare bikes that you never see at these kind of classic scrambles these days. These were very quick machines way back in the day, but certainly Gillian doing very well there as she comes round to take the checkered flag. So that quite conveniently brings us on to race 20, and these are the pre-1984s over and under 40s and 50s class. Not too many riders in this race, but of course this is getting later in the day, so quite a few bikes do drop out with regards to mechanical failures, etc. But looks like we're good to go. David Loudon's made a good start off the line on that 490 YZ Yamaha. Looks like Jason Miller is in second position on the big RM500 Suzuki. So as the riders make their way towards us on lap 1, it is indeed David Loudon, your race leader. Second is number 18, Jason Miller. Number 81 is Ian Stainton. Number 109 is Colin Nelson on the Michael. And just behind Colin Nelson there, just going into the turn, is number 87. That's Darren Brown on what I think is an old Michael Magnum, possibly from 1978 or even 1979. But this man here, number 75, David Loudon, is, as you can see, a very quick rider, and certainly one of the top 1984 riders that we have here at the Scottish Classic Club. But Davey's another one of the riders that never did too much racing last year due to a fall at Lockerbie, and he was basically out of commission for most of the 2022 racing season. But as you can see, it appears he's almost back to his old self again and enjoying riding his old Yamahas. Number 18 just going through there, that's Jason Miller. Number 81 is Ian Stainton. Number 109 is Colin Nelson on that 250 Michael. Although if you fancy having a go at the club's last and final race event of their 2023 championship, then just take a look at their website at classicscrambles.com, where you can see all of the information you're required to enter. But certainly get those entries in quick, because we normally have quite a good turnout for that last race of the year. So we're looking at our second placed rider, Jason Miller, on the RM500 Suzuki. I think Jason's got some kind of broken exhaust on that big Suzuki, because it appears he's got quite a noisy engine below him there, and I think the exhaust could possibly be broken. Number 81 is Ian Stainton, riding that borrowed RM Suzuki from Chris Cannon. So we're back with our race leader once again, number 75, David Loudon, on the YZ490 Yamaha. I think David's already won a race here this afternoon, so he's certainly looking comfortable to take race win number 2. He's got quite a substantial lead over second place man Jason Miller on the big RM Suzuki. So we take a look at Ian Stainton again on that borrowed machine. Number 109 is Colin Nelson on the 250 twin shock Michael. But it's certainly been a fantastic afternoon's racing here at Loch House Farm in Avonbridge in West Lothian. Weather's been absolutely perfect. Quite a strong breeze still blowing across the track, but nevertheless conditions absolutely perfect. So here's your race leader as he comes round to begin his last and final lap of this race. It's number 75, David Loudon, just ahead of Jason Miller on the RM Suzuki, as we take a look at the battle between number 109 Colin Nelson and number 87, that's Darren Brown. Both of these boys, of course, mounted on those German two-stroke Michaels. To Colin Nelson there, number 109, this time riding a Michael. Colin used to race a Husqvarna bike years ago, but it looks like he's swapped his Husky for one of these Michael machines. So we have only about half a lap to go for our race leader, number 75, Dave Loudon, as he heads towards the checkered flag, so this is going to be another dominant win for this very talented YZ490 rider. So David Loudon takes the win as he crosses the checkered flag. Second place should be Jason Miller there, number 18 on the RM500 Suzuki. It looks like Darren Brown has got the advantage over Colin Nelson, so Darren Brown has also been riding quite well this afternoon on that Michael, so these two have had quite a decent scrap in this race. So as they come around to take the checkered flag, it's going to be Darren Brown who finishes just ahead of Colin Nelson. And so that brings us on to race 21, and this is the pre-1984 over 58 years of age, and this of course is also the final race of the day. So we're just looking at Paul Chiappa there on the left and Chris Rogerson leaving the line, but it's a good start from the veteran racer again. Paul Chiappa takes the lead from Chris Rogerson in second position. And there's actually not been much to choose between these two riders at the front of this pre-1984 class, because both Chris Rogerson and Paul Chiappa have given some good accounts of themselves in all of these pre-1984 races. So this has been a good performance by both of these riders, but as a race leader comes up to complete lap one, it's number 2 Paul Chiappa on the 490 Michael, and in second position it will be Chris Rogerson close behind. In third position, just coming through, is number 16, that's Mike Foster, and just behind Mike Foster there is Chris Cannon. Although I certainly hope you've enjoyed all of the bikes and the trackside action from this round 6 event here at Loch House Farm in Avonbridge. Don't forget we have many more bikes for you to take a look at, and of course some more racing to come before the end of the 2023 season. So if these are the kind of bikes that you like to look at here on YouTube, then I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. So as our race leaders come up to complete another lap, it's still Paul Chiappa who has that slight lead over Chris Rogerson. We are taking a look at number 16 in the white there, that's Mike Foster on the 480 Honda. He's been hounded by Chris Cannon, and I think Chris Cannon's riding an RM 400 twin shock Suzuki, so quite a good scrap here between these two riders. But this man here has certainly been the star of the pre-1984 Open class here this afternoon. Number 2 Paul Chiappa, who currently leads Chris Rogerson in second position. So Paul Chiappa certainly had a fantastic day here at Avonbridge. But as I said, we hope to bring you more of the bikes from around the paddock, and maybe some trackside racing action at the final round of the Scottish Classic Clubs events for this year, and that will be at Whitekirk at the end of September. So we're looking at number 16 again, Mike Foster, still being chased by number 81 Chris Cannon on the RM400 Suzuki. That looks like Derek McCauley there just going through as well on the CR125 Honda, but here's the battle at the front. Paul Chiappa's still got a comfortable lead over this man here in second position, number 511 Chris Rogerson, and here's the battle going on behind our first two race leaders between number 16 Mike Foster, number 81 Chris Cannon, and number 29 Derek McCauley. But it looks like Mike Foster's big 480 Honda has the advantage over Chris Cannon's RM400 Suzuki. Derek McCauley also keeping in touch with these two riders. I'm sure Derek's still riding that little CR125 Honda, so it still looks like it's Mike Foster here in third position, with Chris Cannon in fourth as these riders cross the line. So we're back at the front again between number 2 Paul Chiappa and number 511 Chris Rogerson. And when these bikes cross the line this time, they will be starting their last and final lap of this race. 6 laps, of course, for these big pre-1984 twin shock machines. It doesn't take these big bikes too long to complete a lap of this track, but it's still this man here, number 2 Paul Chiappa, your race leader, as he comes round to start his last and final lap of this final race of the day. So Paul Chiappa certainly looks like he's in a good position to notch up another race win. Here's the man in third position now. It looks like Chris Cannon's managed to pass Mike Foster's big Honda, so it's Chris Cannon currently in third position with Mike Foster there in fourth. But as you can see, not too many bikes lined up for this last race of the day, which you often tend to see at these kind of meetings when the bikes kind of tail away at the end of the race event, due mainly to bike breakages, etc. But there's still enough bikes here to make a good race of it. So it's still number 2 Paul Chiappa who leads Chris Rogerson there, number 511, in second position. But this has been another dominant display from the man from Dunfermline in Fife. So as he comes round to take the checkered flag, it's going to be a win for number 2 Paul Chiappa, with Chris Rogerson in second position. Here's a battle between number 81 Chris Cannon and number 16 Mike Foster, and I think that's actually a 250 RM Suzuki that Chris Cannon's riding, but Chris comes round to take that third place position just ahead of Mike Foster in fourth. So there you have it. That just about concludes everything that went down at this Scottish Classic Round 6 event here at Avonbridge. And I hope you've enjoyed all of those racing highlights, and of course the bikes that we showed you in the paddock. Now we have only one more round left to cover before the end of the 2023 racing season. That will of course be at Whitekirk at the end of September. So I do hope you'll join me once again for that final round in the Scottish Classic calendar. But from all of us here at Avonbridge, for the time being, it's thanks for watching and goodbye for now.